Yeah.
This first person is just always bums me out.
I'm with you. I'm 100% with you. But Cyberpunk at this version, it's a really good game. And you know, this is from oh my God, what is this? Project
Red, the one that did
Project Red, that did Witcher
and all that stuff. Yeah,
Witcher.
Yeah.
So they killed it. Yeah. I think they, like I said, I saw all the rumblings when it first came out. Like people that had Xbox bought it and then returned it automatically because it was broken. And then I saw like people on PC loved it. They enjoyed it from top to bottom. But then console players took a long time for them to get to it because they had to do patches and this and that. And now that they've released the DLC, everything cleaned up and everything else, I just now played it like last month or something like that. And it's been super fun and super engaging. So I'm as a person that's not the biggest like third person shooter, like it actually has been keeping my interest the whole time I've been doing it. So it's been pretty cool.
Yeah, I think Starfield is going to have the same situation.
I really want to hear your quasi in-depth analysis of Starfield.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much a game at this point.
Nice. All right, let's do it. So, as you guys have heard, welcome everybody to Blerdlines. This is your man Cam. With me, as always, is
the magical Negro Cam 2,
as well as
the Professor, aka the Witch Boy.
And we're back here, top of the year. Happy New Year's, everybody. I guess the statute of limitations on New Year's is now over now.
Wait. So let me get everybody's take on when is it appropriate to stop saying Happy New Year's. I used to give people a week. Now I'm like January 3rd. Every 3rd, I'm like, all right.
Yeah. It's for me, it's after January 1st. The phrase "Happy New Year" falls out of my vocabulary. I usually, unless now I'm just joking. It depends on when I see people. Like obviously within that first week, I usually say it, but past the 3rd or like the 4th, I'm done. I'm like not even thinking about it anymore.
That's funny. I mean, you know, Larry David had his thing about, you know, what is it, 7 days or something like that?
Yeah. He's got that joke where the guy's like, "Happy New Year." He's like, "Too late. You missed it."
He's like, "Nah, just let it go. Just let it go."
Shout out to Larry David coming back for one final season.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and the promos are great. Like that. There's a teaser where he's like walks up to a UFO that lands in LA, and an alien walks out, and then Larry walks up to him, and they just look at each other, and then Larry takes off the mask, revealing that he was an alien this whole time. And then he walks on the ship, and he's like, just saying, he's like, by the way, who's the idiot that designed this face? so basically, he in the last season, he's leaving the Earth. He's revealed himself to be an alien. That's why he's so anti-human.
The dude is so funny. And I laugh because like that show could literally go on forever.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do a rewatch of that whole thing. I've caught it like in iterations in certain seasons. I haven't watched it continuously. But I'm very much a fan of Curb. So,
yeah, it's one of those great sitcoms that you don't even like. If you saw a couple seasons and then you walked away from it and then came back, it's like you didn't really miss anything. Larry David is still Larry David, and the humor is still sharp and still strong. I mean, he was gone for like 10 years between like season 7 and season 8, and then like another 4 or 5 between the next couple seasons. So it was kind of dope that, HBO gave him that open contract. I mean, he's proven himself. This is a multi-time Emmy award-winning show, and not to mention the creator of Seinfeld. So they're just like, it doesn't have to be the end, but
yeah. I was gonna say, if you're the creator of Seinfeld and this show, you got a good standing.
Yeah,
exactly.
it's like you can do whatever you want, pretty much.
Yeah, and also it's like one of those shows, like you said, like there's truly no ending, so it can just literally go on for however long they want, and so it's just the fact that he's like, oh, I still want to do it. They're just like, oh, cool. What you need? How much budget you need? All right, make that happen. Enjoy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so today we're talking about video games. All of us are gamers in different capacities. Some are hardcore, some are middle, some are casual. I'm more on the casual side. I still play. I love playing video games, but I'm not as on it as a lot of stuff. Everyone's been playing different games all these last 6 months at the very least. Some blockbusters, some indie stuff, some just different things. But we wanted to take at least an episode to talk about all the games that we're playing, what we're enjoying, what we're looking forward to. Last year was a crazy year for games just in general. There's like blockbuster after blockbuster, all these really, really dope games. I mean, I still got games in my queue that I really want to play, but I'm like, am I going to play it today or the next month? No. All right, let me just wait for the Pope sale and get it later.
Wait, we got to explain what the Pope sale is. So for longtime listeners of the chat, the Pope is a reference to one of the OG hosts of the Old Table of Truth, and he is known for I don't want to say being cheap, but very pragmatic and economical for when he gets his games. And so we always reference anything we want to get on sale or very cheap, the Pope sale.
Yep.
He's a very frugal man.
But also it's also smart because the philosophy more is, all right, are you going to be playing this game right now or at the next month? No. Yep. All right, you can wait. So it's like, do you want to drop 60, 70 bucks for a game right now that you know you're not going to play at least for a month or two? Then wait those 2 months. And by that time, it's $35 or it's $30 or it's whatever dollars. And
unless it's Grand Theft Auto or anything.
Yeah, there are exceptions to the rule.
By Rockstar. And I don't mean to say that you need to have that compulsion to go out and spend $80. I just mean that those games tend to not go down or become free for almost 2, 3, even five years before they're like actually a reasonable price or actually added to the catalog of free games.
Yeah.
But it's always a gambit because I remember back in 2018 when Red Dead Redemption 2 was released, I bought the game and I played it. The first I didn't even get out of the snow story or chapter, and I stopped playing it, not because it was a bad game, because obviously we know Red Dead Redemption 2 is anything but a bad game, but just because it happened. And then I looked up, 2 years had passed, and I'm in the middle of the pandemic, and I'm like, oh, I never played Red Dead Redemption, and it's sitting there, and I paid at the time, I think it was probably $60 for a new game, 55, something like that.
Hey, I was
$70 is something very recent
nowadays.
Yeah, because the $69.99 is very recent for new games, but I knew I had the game, so then I played it, and it was probably one of the best experiences ever because I played that game for the first time all the way through during the pandemic. So, it's the early part of the pandemic. We're shut in, can't go anywhere, and I escaped to a fictional version of the Old West, and it was amazing. I got into the story, the online, all of that stuff, and definitely probably one of the few games that I'll say, if that game were still $70 today,
it's still
I would still spend that money gladly for that game. Or if they say they released an add-on and that add-on was like the price of a regular new game, I would buy it because that's just how great, that's just how amazing Red Dead Redemption ended up being. And so, but I bring that up to say that it's a rarity that games end up living up to that price tag where you feel like, oh, after I spend all that money and I got like the greatest gaming experience, or I feel like it was worth the price tag. I've only felt that way recently with Red Dead Redemption 2, Ghost of Tsushima and the first Spider-Man, Sony Spider-Man.
Yeah, I still have Ghost of Tsushima. Like, yeah, I have it. I still haven't played it, but I think it's funny because I play Warframe, and Warframe is a free to play game, but they have regular updates all the time. When they do their updates, it's literally a full on new game, like open world planet, and you can do all this random shit in it. And because it's a free to play game, they have a whole gaming ecosystem of monetary values where there's like, each frame is basically like a new suit or something like that. But they'll have bundles, and the bundles are literally the price of a game. And I'm like watching, I'm like, yo, I've been playing this game for 12 years. I think now I think about it, I remember, I've probably spent maybe $60 in total over the last 12 years and just, buying little small things here and there overall. But then every time they'll drop, a whole bundle and have a bunch of crap and this and that you actually want. And it literally be $69.99 or $49.99 for a free and this particular company, they only make this game. So they always update it. They always have full on, when they do a new update, that update is literally almost a new game. So like they've been basically patching this game since the last 12 years. But every time they drop a new update, that update's huge and massive. And it really is a full on new game. And then, and because they have such a loyal fan base and the ecosystem that actually works, like, people will, they'll drop $20, $30 every year to get all the new shit that comes with it, and then just keep it moving. So,
can I add on to both of you guys' gaming experiences with those games? So, to go back to Professor D's point about Red Dead Redemption, I too bought the game when it was first released, but I quit. And the reason why I quit is because I think God of War came out, and God of War captured my attention, but it took me so long to beat this game, Red Dead Redemption, on the way back to it 2 years later, because my dumb ass was looking for roach pelts and all types of beaver pelts and doing all of the side quests and not like I literally was hunting alligator skins, squirrel tails and stuff like this, trying to get this like uber unique uniform in the game. I was trying to collect everything, and I still haven't collected everything, but it literally took me 3 years to beat that game. Like I played it like for 3 months straight. Or
do you mean to finish the story or the main 100%?
No, the main story. I still have not completed that 100%. There are things in there there are Easter eggs, there are hidden treasures that I still have not like found. Because
the game is just an endless gift that keeps giving. Yeah.
So, and I found out a lot of stuff, right? Getting back to Warframe is, 2020? It's about 11 years old. I think it came out in 2013 for the PC. The cool thing about Warframe is one of those games that, in the beginning, when I started playing Warframe, there was no instructions on how to play. You just launched it and you just play and you figured it out. So when he was talking about spending money, I think I spent a little bit of money on trying to get some coins, because I blew all my coins on some meaningless stuff in the beginning, not knowing I needed to save and start playing the game. And I think I spent like $20 trying to get like coins in the beginning. But then once I found out you can play to earn the stuff, then I figured out how to play it. But in the beginning, when I started playing Warframe, it was tough because there was no instructions on how to play, what to do, how to go about it. Now there's like spreadsheets.
And also too, Warframe is interesting because if you played it when it first came out and you play it now, it's a completely different game.
Yeah.
And they rebuilt the whole thing. So it's interesting that like, it's funny because I started playing Warframe around the time I was playing Destiny. And Destiny, I think, I played it from the beginning until like Taken King. And then I was just like, I don't like this game. Because I think, again, it goes back to first person versus third person. I'm a big third person. And the amount of grind I had to do for Destiny just wasn't satisfying. And then Warframe came around. I'm like, wait, this is free? And the grind feels more satisfying. Like, I just, fought all these things and beat all these planets, and I got all these pieces to make this cool new frame. This is dope. And I was super into it. And so I think the grind part of it is also the part that, adds to your gaming experience. And I think things like Warframe, Division 2, those types of things where it's like, when you feel like, okay, I put all this time and effort into this game, the return is good, because when I was watching you guys play like Red Dead Redemption, I was like, I don't know if I have the life energy for this. Y'all making bullets and shit. And
no. So the thing about, like, I was never I kind of got into GTA in the beginning, but I was like not really hooked on it. But I enjoyed, like, the last GTA game I played was San Andreas, and I kind of played that pretty tough. But then I was like, I just didn't have time to play it. But when they took that concept and put it in the Wild West, and I was a fan of the Red Dead Revolver series.
Red Dead Revolver.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be something similar, but it was something totally different. But the continuation of the lore was there. And I thought that was cool. And I was like, yo, GTA in the Wild West, sign me up. I'm all about this. So,
yeah. And I think the thing that impresses the most about both Red Dead Redemption games is when it's a radical departure in the way that Rockstar has approached storytelling. Because when people say, oh, it's Grand Theft Auto in the Wild West, that's very true. But then it also trivializes what they actually achieve with that story. And that gaming experience, unlike Grand Theft Auto, is about, well, part 2 especially is about consequences of the choices you make, and how that has rippling effects on future and on things that will happen in your future, or how things go as far as the resolution of the story. The story of Arthur Morgan is probably, depending on how you play, but no matter how you play, it's probably the best story, overall narrative of a game protagonist that I've ever seen. Like the beauty and the choices that have to be made, the stakes that you experience and that you are both a part of as the gamer, but also as the audience, the person taking in the story. You know, some of the aspects of it is out of your hand, whereas opposed to Grand Theft Auto, you know, those protagonists in both stories, the protagonists are anti-villainous characters, but only in one is that actually made to mean anything. So in Red Dead Redemption, the first one, John Marston is used by law enforcement to capture his old compadres, but then that same institution murders at the end. You know, and there's a lot of symbology and meaning in that, and then you go to the second one where it ends up being the 2 in Red Dead Redemption doesn't just denote to the sequel, but it denotes to that this is 2 stories being told parallel to each other, and are important. Even though we're seeing what happened before the events of the first game, it still sort of stands as a sequel because it's both Arthur's story, but also a continuation of John's story and understanding his character. So all that to say is that the narrative experience of Red Dead Redemption and Red Dead Redemption 2, in my opinion, is more transcendent than anything that's out there right now in terms of just the stakes, the emotion, a protagonist that you immediately care about and invest in his journey. All even the little small details like Arthur's journaling and the things that he writes down in his journal, it all adds to that experience to the point where you get to the end and you know the outcome is like you don't want that to happen, but there's nothing you could do to stop it. So, yeah.
And I think also too at its core right now, like top-notch AAA games have narratives that are super involved, super thought
Yeah.
out, and it's like Red Dead Redemption, God of War, freaking Last of Us, Spider-Man 2. And so now we have players that are now not only we're playing because the Jedi Survivor, Jedi Fallen Order.
Oh yeah, yeah.
We're playing the games one because the game is dope, but we're also playing because the story is super like engrossing, and you want to find out how it goes. Like I think that to me is the part where and these AAA games are getting budgets almost like freaking Hollywood movies at this point.
Yeah.
But then the craft and the storytelling is a part that's starting to set it apart from everything else. So these ain't your mama's games anymore. Now we in it. I want to know what you're invested about the story and care about these characters.
Yeah, and I want to actually take it back a little bit because also The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is an amazing story. Like that story, including the consequences and the decisions that you have to make as Geralt of Rivia. It's just, I think that and Red Dead Redemption 2 stand up there as the twin pillars of like the best in terms of open world. You give the player agency and latitude in the world, but also there's a contained and grounded narrative to follow that allows you to have a enriched and fulfilling, because that's really what it is, right? Like that's why we watch certain movies and TV shows and read certain books and comics, is that you want to escape into that world, but you also want that world to have a kind of narrative that makes sense, that makes the choices you make have consequences. And even if it's not always consequences that you want. I mean, I didn't realize that until I read after the fact that one or two different lines of dialogues can determine whether or not Ciri dies or how she might die or not die in The Witcher. Basically, if you have Geralt say this phrase as opposed to that phrase, then she's going to make a different decision at the end in that crucial moment, which could mean she dies or lives or other. So it's just, again, they don't phone it in. And I appreciate that because it's an overall experience in the gaming.
It's funny you talk about like how these stories have growth and there's some type of evolution and it's a mature storyline within a game, which is made for kids. But, we all know that all people of all ages play games. And the thing for me, it's funny because
Oh, do we lose them? Oh, there you go.
Well, I was asking, I was wondering if we froze up.
Yeah, 2023. All right, I'll make sure.
Yeah.
Oh, we had a power outage. Huh? Crazy. Nuts. All right. Well, you know what? Hold on. And go.
So it looks like we're still paused. Oh, no, we're back recording. Okay, so I just wanted to talk about the maturity of like the games we play. It's just ironic that games are made for kids, but people of all ages play games and whatnot. But I was gonna go back. We're talking about Red Dead Redemption real quick about the part, and I don't know if you can avoid this. I think it's just part of the storyline where Arthur goes to collect a debt. And that's when he gets sick. And I've always been thinking about, is there a way to avoid that scenario?
Yeah, I've tried that a bunch of times. But that's the turning point, right? Yeah. If you think about a 3-act structure of a story, if he doesn't go to collect that on that debt, being a typical outlaw, thug or whatever, that he doesn't get sick and he doesn't. And he'll die. He probably would die of something at some point, but at least that wouldn't be the thing that would take him down. So it's an amazing moment.
I wanted to say too, I'm surprised you guys didn't add God of War to this, because in my opinion, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I think the God of War duology. So, because that's what it is so far in the PlayStation 4 in this new era.
Yeah.
Is amazing because, and it's great. It's up there. I think that would be in the top 5, certainly, and definitely the third after Red Dead Redemption 2, The Witcher 3. I would put the God of War duology in there just because of the way, not only I'm a big fan of Norse mythology, and I love the way particularly the God of War storytellers take the mythologies and really take off the romanticism aspects of it, so they are left with the kind of way they appear in the older stories. You know, Thor, Odin being a bloodthirsty tyrant. You know, same as Zeus, who's also a multi-time rapist of human women, and you know, so they did a really good job of that, and also treating the first trilogy as Old Testament in a really beautiful way.
Yeah, I agree. I just like the growth. Like I was familiar with the first trilogy, quote unquote, the Old Testament, but I never played it. But they're very amazing games, right? But what captured me, and usually it's more of a superficial thing, is when I see a certain game and it just captures my eye. And God of War, the trailer, I was like, yo, this looks crazy. Like I've never seen. They just flipped the way you play God of War from 2D side scrolling to like what it is now. I don't even know the term you call it. And it feels like an open world, even though it's not really an open world. Because there's a certain path you do have to take. But then when you start to look at the nuanced conversations between you and why can I not think of the talking head's name? Mimir. And you find out little bits and pieces of lore, the history, references to the Old Testament. And then the interaction between him and his son, being a father and learning from the mistakes he's made up until part 2, where he has this revelation where he basically tells his son to toughen up, be hard, death happens. And then he flips and says, you know, it's okay to care, you know, and have and peel those layers back. I thought that was like an amazing layer to the development of Kratos as a character. If you're familiar with the Old Testament, to see where he's come now. I thought was like awesome, because I got on Google just to understand the history of Kratos and where he got, and from where he came from to where he got to be now. And
he's a rage monster.
Yeah.
Like he was like Kratos of the original God of War saga, because there's the 3 main games, and then there's the other games, Ascension, Chains of Olympus, things like that. He became almost a pop culture figure for revenge, you know, and vengeance and righteous vengeance and things like that. So you're right that when you get to the 2018 game, and it's been, I think, the God of War 3 was released on PS3 originally, I believe. And yeah, so when you get to God of War, the new God of War, it had a lot of time has passed, both in the game world and in our world. And so I think the developers did a good job, the storytellers, of not relying on that information and having that be sort of Kratos as a man with this big secret and backstory that. And if you've played those old games, because at first I remember playing, I'm like, why aren't they talking about the fact that this dude is the ex-God of War and he literally slaughtered the entire Olympian and all the Olympians and the Titans? Like, he basically killed off the entire Greek pantheon. Like, he systematically killed them all. But they weren't saying anything like that. And his son Atreus wasn't referencing his father being a god and all that stuff. And so when they do finally get to those moments in the story, I'll never forget when in the first game, Atreus realizes that he learns that Kratos is a ex-god and that he's half god, and he's basically saying that he can make certain decisions because he's a god and they're not. And Mimir is like, brother, I think he tells Kratos, he's like, brother, I think you need to have a conversation about that right there. So it's like he said that those little moments is in the storytelling.
So it's funny you say that, because Valhalla, the latest installment to God of War, gives some type of closure. And I don't want to get too in depth at that, because I think you might end up playing it. I don't want to spoil it.
I will.
Okay. I'm going to try to navigate this without giving spoilers. But it's basically the basic premise of the game is it's God of War, but it's kind of a roguelike. So roguelike games are basically, if you die, you start over, right? And you don't have your powers, but that's explained to you in the beginning. You go in, you're fully, like, in the beginning intro, you're like full on powered Kratos, and then you lose it because you're going through the gates of Valhalla, and you have to understand why you're there, who invited you, and each time it's kind of like you have to die to get more answers. And that's the beauty of a roguelike game. It's almost like the beauty of playing a Souls-like game. There is beauty in dying, but also it reveals more when you die, because you learn more about how to navigate and you get better. But the whole purpose of the game is like for Kratos to confront himself and to confront his past in a certain way. And when you play more into this game, it's going to be some cool throwback references. And once you get to the last part, you understand. When you get to the last part, you understand why you're there, but then you got to keep doing it to reveal more of the purpose of Kratos. Because in the beginning of the game, there's a conversation, which isn't a spoiler. It's just a conversation between him and what's her name? The Valkyrie Queen Freya. Yeah. And they have a conversation. She basically asks Kratos, did you think about what we talked about? You're like, what are they talking about? What are they talking about? And he put some thought into it, but he's off on his journey to figure it out, right? This is the story of Kratos now, right? And you're on a solo journey, right? But it's a very interesting game. It's not a long game, and you can play it. There's different levels. Obviously, people want to beat it on God of War, but it's cool to beat the game. And each time you get to the ending, it's a different way you're fighting the last boss, and it gives more layers. And then when you play it again, it forces you to play again. You got to beat the game at least 5 times to understand what you're actually there for. I thought that was pretty cool, but it's not like you can't go in there like, oh, I remember these combos, because that's what I went in there initially thinking, like, I can get my combos. Like, you ain't got no powers, bro. You got to go through each level, get powers, and then figure out, do I want to use the axe? Do I want to use the spear? Or do I want to use the chains? You just can't mix it up. You got to figure it out, because you're trying to sync up your powers with one of these weapons. You can't balance it because they only give you so many slots to be the most powerful Kratos in the game. So that's the interesting thing. So it's a different approach of how you approach the fighting, but the story is still there. And then it just adds to the lore of Kratos and his growth. And if you've been playing the God of War up in this new console rendition from the PS4 on up, you're gonna like this game. It's a different approach, but it's the same God of War. But it's a good game. I think it was free. It's free. It's a free DLC, so I can't complain about that. Right. And it's a whole ass game, which is awesome. So kudos to Santa Monica Studios for continuing this. And there's one more thing I wanted to reiterate on Red Dead Redemption before we segue from that. There is going to be a Red Dead Redemption probably when I'm 53.
I know, right?
But I want them to move away from the Marston, his son storyline. I think we need a new character.
Interesting.
I think the redemption part is done.
I agree. I think that's to your point. And again, we just talked about the God of War duology. In my opinion, Red Dead Redemption is a duology as well. in that you play both games, and the second game gives you a better understanding of how John Marston became the man that he is in the game that you play. And the experience of playing John in Red Dead Redemption 2 is totally different than the experience of playing as John in the first Red Dead Redemption, which of course is set some years after. But I know that there's a lot of talk about there's a lot of consternation about where they should go with the franchise. And given that Grand Theft Auto 6 is coming, I think you're right, Cam. It's less likely that we'll see another Red Dead Redemption game or Red Dead game, let's just call it that, Red Dead game, within the next 10 years, because Rockstar just tends to move slow on everything.
Yeah.
And also I also think that they really do kind of put all their eggs in that Grand Theft Auto basket. And
yeah, I mean, but also that's their moneymaker, right? So like you make sure that your moneymaker is good, and then you can have fun with everything else. And I think that's the thing that they're working on now, where, you know, the GTA is about to come out with another thing soon, and then Red Dead, that was the thing. Like hearing you guys play Red Dead all the time was super interesting, because like, again, part of the reason why I didn't get Elden Ring was the same thing. I don't have the life energy to dedicate, because like you guys are talking about Red Dead. He's like, yo, I'm like fucking making bullets and shit, and I got to get some bear pelts.
Well,
and I gotta.
Here's the thing: the difference between because I agree with you. The difference between Red Dead and Elden Ring is that Red Dead, that stuff is a choice.
Yeah,
you don't have to make bullets. You don't have to be a trapper. You don't have to, like Cam was saying, how he played as basically a hunter for like almost down or 2 years, where he wasn't doing anything but, all these little side things. But you could play through that game and get the full experience without doing any of that stuff until the narrative calls for it,
totally.
making bullets and stuff like that.
Like
exactly.
Like Witcher,
exactly.
Witcher, you could do Skyrim is another one where you could do all the side quests, and then if you wanted to get back into the main joint, you could, but you could literally be on the side quest for 20, 30 hours. I heard Baldur's Gate, which has got all the awards from last year, is the same way. Like if you really wanted to, you could not do the main quest and just do your whole game experience could just be side quests, and then you would have a whole other situation. So that's
same with Starfield. Starfield is very similar in that it's the same. Obviously, it's made by Bethesda, so it's the same as company as Skyrim, but Starfield is the same thing. You could play that game for hundreds of hours and not have to actually engage in the main story. And that is cool, but I think the problem with Starfield, because I've played it for a while now, and I have a character that's at 100 and level 103, and like I said, the dude is a 10-time Starborn. I haven't gone through. So the game's been out for a while, so I don't feel any compulsion about not sharing or whatever, about not spoiling. But basically, you discover that the Starborn, who are human spacefarers, are basically the same group of people who you meet at the beginning of the game, including yourself. You're in this group called Constellation, and they're basically explorers or the Federation of the game, where their primary concern is exploring the universe and its secrets. And so the big thing when you first meet them is that they found this artifact, and the artifact responds to certain people. Obviously, your character is one that it responds to, and when you touch it, you're basically your consciousness is like thrown from your body into the cosmos, basically, and your consciousness is like for a moment flows through the cosmos and hears this music. But it all leads to you having to build what's called this armillary, which allows your ship to travel to the Unity. The Unity is the point in which all universes intersect. So,
interesting. I think the other thing for Starfield for me was the lore and how they're putting everything together sounded pretty dope. And it's funny because like I have a PC laptop that I play like lighter games on, but I don't think I have a capacity to play full on Starfield. And then when you're bringing up the point of like getting an Xbox pass, and then it allows you to play games remotely or through their streaming situation, like I've been looking into that, and it's actually pretty dope. Like I have 2 Samsung monitors that I can get the Xbox pass on and run the games through that. All I need is just a Bluetooth freaking controller to play the game. So it's kind of cool. But I think, these games now are giving you these exploring options to kind of just like, do your own thing, kind of choose your own adventure for better or for worse. Now I've been getting I've seen a lot of like Starfield reviews that people actually hate that aspect of it. And there's other ones that are like, yo, this is dope. I've been exploring 100 planets and just making new shit.
Yeah, I think, I've recently, because this is, if you want to write the best stuff, you have to know the best stuff. But I've been recently revisiting Battlestar Galactica, and there's a moment in which the Colonel Tide character says, believe it or not, that most of the universe is very barren. It's either a rock or a gas giant. And it's true. And I think for those who have played Starfield and who have a strong inclination or are drawn toward hard science, they're more accepting of the way the world is. I've explored a lot of planets. Some of them are barren. Some of them are filled with interesting fauna that some of it attacks you and some of it is mild mannered. But I think the best part is that it allows you to play on your own terms, no matter what. So you can spend days and days, hours and hours on end surveying planets and setting up outposts to extract those resources and then sell that stuff for more money to the different factions and stuff like that. The biggest issue that I think universally was a problem with Starfield is the New Game Plus system, and that when you travel through the Unity, yes, you get to keep all of your skills and your level and you get a cool new ship, a Starfield ship, and a new type of armor for at least if you go through 10 times, by the 10th one, you'll have the best armor in the game, the Venator not armor, but spacesuit / armor. But the problem is every time you go through the Unity, everything you did is wiped clean. So it's like a tabula rasa. You have no money anymore. If you built the ship, it's gone. Yeah, exactly. So like, all the loot is gone. And so the problem that people had, and I know this because I had the same problem, is why didn't Bethesda say that? I get it. It was supposed to be,
jump. Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. It's supposed to be and again, I would have accepted it because narratively it makes sense. You're leaving one universe and going into another. You can't take possessions with you in that case. And even if you could, what good would they be in this whole other ass universe? And so I get that, but a lot of people didn't understand, and I didn't either until I did it that one time, is that Bethesda basically allows you to play the game on however you want to. So if you choose to do that grind and then go through the Unity that first time, they're kind of making it say like, well, you can do it again. And this time, just go right through the Unity. Just go right through the Unity. Boom. And then when you're ready to settle in a specific universe, then you grind and you get the stuff but I think that's unfair. I think they should have mentioned that was the case, in that the New Game Plus is very different. So before you decide to do the whole hours and hours on grind, you might want to just play the main story first. I think people would have been more accepting if they had done that, because I got to tell you, I was not happy. I was like, wow, I did that whole grind, got all those credits, got all that stuff, and it's all gone. I built that ship and it's gone, and so that was, and then the other criticism for me is that if you tell me that I'm going to these different universes that's supposed to be different versions of this universe, then give me some variations. Now, people have said that they've seen different types of stuff in the Unity. Like people said that they've gone through, and then when they go to Constellation, every member of Constellation is your character. But I was like, that sounds more like a bug than it does something intentional.
Yeah.
And so if you're going through a new universe, maybe this time this person is your enemy, and this time this set of characters is in this place or that place. To me, that is a multiverse type of situation, versus just every time you go through, it's the same thing, the same missions, the same outcomes, the same paths. Like literally the only difference is you get a Starborn dialogue selection that allows you to basically be like, yeah, I know exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's going to happen this way.
And I'm curious because, I mean, a game like Starfield, a game like Skyrim, Elden Ring, these type of games, all of these games have these time investments. And, even stuff like Hogwarts and Jedi Survivor and all these other ones, they all have time investments. And so it's interesting to see, which of the users will take that time to invest in that beyond just the fandom. Jedi Survivor out the gate, it's going to do numbers because it's a Star Wars thing, and it's a solid Star Wars franchise.
Oh yeah, it's an amazing game. It's a great game. And
then also you have the story too.
Yeah.
Well, can I add on? So you said these are time investments. Some of these games like Elden Ring, maybe Starfield, you can attest to this, B, and a few others, you can play it one way and get through it within a reasonable amount of time. Yep. But if you really want to immerse yourself in stories, subplots, side quests, that's the investment, which in my part of my gaming experience and why I like a game is how one, it's the main campaign, but the additional stuff that they add on. Granted, you play an Assassin's Creed game, you kind of know, outside of the first one, you kind of know what it's going to do. You got these kind of repetitive missions, side quests. And you're like, okay, I don't really need to do all this. Mm-hmm. Whereas Elden Ring, there are side stories and side quests. Jedi Survivor, there are side quests, but they don't feel as repetitive. Now, the one game that it felt repetitive, but I was okay with it, was Ghost of Tsushima. I didn't mind the side. It was really easy. It didn't bother me. Same with kind of the God of War. They were kind of side questing, kind of repetitive a little bit, but each unique thing in the God of War series had a challenging effect, like finding the Valkyries and finding the Queen of the Valkyries. That was part of the side quest. Getting the armor when you fought the knights, you know what I'm saying? And then Ragnarok had the same thing, but it was like, I wanted to get this specific armor. I wanted to get this power, right? But then there's things like Spider-Man. There's side quests, and you know what it is. Do this within a certain time limit, or kill this many enemies. But it's okay. I get it. It depends if you want 100% it or not.
Yeah, and then Spider-Man was more for getting the suits, right? Like in the first one, getting the suits is a little bit harder. The second one, the suits are a lot easier to get. So you're doing the side quests purely for vanity's sake to get the suit, like that, and that's pretty much what it is.
But the point I was trying to make is that not all these games require that much investment. It's just how far are you willing to take it
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
It's a good point.
100%. Do I want all the costumes, or do I just want to get through? Like D'Angelo, I think you played what game we were playing, and you just went straight to the storyline. I was like, oh man, you beat it really fast.
Was it Ragnarok or was it?
I think it was Ragnarok. I think you played Ragnarok, and like you just completed it, and you were just like, I just want to get to the story on this level, and I was like, that's okay. You know what I'm saying? But like for me, I've always wanted the 100% complete God of War games, and so I'll try to do.
Oh, I think it was also Jedi Survivor too. I think because those came out like right by. Yeah. I went through that because I kept, for like you said, and that's what the games do now. Some of the better ones lend themselves to is like for me, it's all about the story. It's more about the story. And also the balance of the gameplay. So Jedi Survivor, the Jedi franchise wouldn't be great if it just had a great story, but it's because of the story and gameplay balance that makes it amazing. And just the way that it operates on its own, has its own thing in the greater Star Wars canon is just amazing.
I will add this to Jedi Survivor that after you complete the main quest and campaign, there is a reason to continue the bounty hunting quest and finding the echoes that gives explanation behind the character and his reasoning for doing what he did. And I'm not trying to spoil it for those who haven't beat the game, though it's been out for a few months or over a year maybe. But it gives you more of a reason to continue playing. I think
that's dope.
Certain times when games give you those like extra add-ons to continue finding little things is what makes for me a game it puts it higher up in my mark. I'm not saying Jedi Survivor is up on Red Dead Redemption, but it's up there. It's a really good game. It's one of the few Star Wars games that I actually like. I don't like too many Star Wars games.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely in top 5.
Yeah. So, all right. So to wrap, I would say, what do you guys for all of last year? What was your favorite game that you guys were playing multiple games all year? Blah, 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 blah. So what was the favorite game that you guys had that you enjoyed the most in terms of challenge, worth repeating because you beat the story, but you went back and got all the things, or just a gaming experience like as a whole? Because there's so many blockbuster games that came out, and then also it was one of those things where like people were like actually enjoying the art of our video games right now. Like, you had people getting those SKUs
last year because
I know, right?
Because even though last year was a few weeks ago,
you're still playing games now.
Yeah, but the thing is though, like, so I'll give you my answer real quick, but it's not really the game. It's Diablo 4. And the only because if you asked me 2023, it'd have been Diablo 3. And that was in prep for Diablo 4. I was playing that super heavy, right? And the reason I was playing Diablo 3 was super heavy is because I've never played a Diablo franchise.
Yeah.
Even though I wanted to back in the day. And I jumped on that game, and one of the homies put me on, and I was just trying to understand what I was about to get into with Diablo 4 because I saw the trailer for Diablo 4 and it looked amazing. So I was like, okay, I'm going to get into this. That's the game I put a bazillion hours into.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I think it wasn't God of War, and it wasn't. I think it was the game I was playing a lot early on in the year was oh my god, what is the game where she's a female protagonist and she Horizon Zero.
Forbidden Horizon. Yeah.
I had the second one, and I didn't play it because I didn't play the first one, and so I played Horizon Zero Dawn for hours trying to understand what I was getting myself into, and I wanted to beat it really fast, even though I didn't, to play part 2. And I haven't even played part 2 because I just needed a break from that game. But I played that a lot before I got into Diablo 3 and 4. So outside of that Diablo and Horizon Zero Dawn, I was playing a lot.
Nice. D, what game were you playing?
So last year, and it's funny you asked that question because then I thought about it and I actually pushed my memory all the way back to January. Last year, I played mainly, I believe, 4 games, I'm going to say. Starfield, God of War Ragnarok, Jedi Survivor, and I replayed The Witcher 3 because they re-released it for the PlayStation 5 in that engine, in that not Unreal Engine, but they updated the graphics and everything. And so I'll start there. Obviously, I've talked a lot about The Witcher 3 on this podcast and others. And honestly, every time I replay that game, I just fall right into it and just don't want to stop. The only reason I stopped is because Jedi Survivor released. And I was like, okay, got to stop now because I'm not going to play both of them just because nowadays it's kind of hard for me to keep it all the combinations and stuff of each game and the gameplay, the controls of each game all together. So I'd rather just play one game at a time. Played Jedi Survivor. That was amazing. Got through that pretty easily, but it was also a challenge and a good one. And then that led to the God of War Ragnarok, which I loved. I mean, because for all the reasons I said, and the last game was Starfield. Now, I played Starfield probably the most, but all of those four, my favorite game that I played, it's tough, but I would say Ragnarok. At first, I was going to say Star Wars, but then I thought about it and I was like, no, I just enjoyed Ragnarok so much more because I love that mythology. And I love Star Wars, but there's something about playing as Kratos in that world that's so much more gratifying.
Can I add one thing about Starfield? I too got caught up in the hype train, and I kind of waited because one, I didn't have an Xbox, and when people finally got their hands on it and it was like mixed reviews, I kind of took a step back and was like, I don't think I need to play this, but maybe I will eventually sometime down the line. But I saw a lot of problems with it that at this day and age they shouldn't have problems with.
No, 100%, 100%. The one I mentioned that, you know, other than the New Game Plus being a letdown in terms of not knowing that if you go through that grind and then you go through New Game Plus, that you're not allowed to carry. Every other New Game Plus allows you to carry everything over with you. But again, it makes sense if you're talking about stepping into an entire new universe. I just would have liked to have known that, because then I could have made a different choice about how I decided to play the game the first time around. And I definitely wouldn't have grinded the way I did. And also there's so much to say about Bethesda, in that I think they were lazy with this because it almost felt like they just copied and pasted the entire schemata of Skyrim and just put it in space. Of Skyrim, just put it in space. With that said, I enjoy parts of it. It's not a horrible game. I will continue to play it because it's just one of those games that if you want to play a space game, it's there, and you can, and it's not a bad game. But to your point about the Xbox thing, now you don't have to buy an Xbox. You just need the Game Pass, and then you get the cloud gaming beta. It's in beta mode right now, but it works fine, especially if you have an Ethernet cable. But you get that and a controller and Bluetooth, and you're good to go. I now just play on using my Mac if I want to play, and that was the best thing I could have did, because you just sign in and you pick up where you left off. But yeah, God of War.
Favorite. I would say I think, my thing, I would say I kind of agree with Cam. Like, I was playing Diablo with my brothers, and, you know, brothers, and you going through the game, you know, getting to 50 and then just, you know, doing all the hell stuff and doing all that kind of thing. Like, it's just a great, like, collaborative game that you can kind of do.
When we played the beta, we was like, man, we cannot wait for this game to come out.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Like, I would say build up and how they did everything was really, really dope. And so I would say for me, my rotation, I mean, Warframe and Division 2 are kind of always there, just because Division 2, they in the last 6 months they've been doing some really dope updates. So it's actually
I have to get back into that.
It's just fun, man. It's fun.
I started it. It is fun. Yeah.
It's a good looter shooter. And I think as they tweak it and change it, whatever, you can bounce, not play for a year, pop back in and be like, oh shit, there's stuff that I want to do now. So, and Warframe is the same way. Like Warframe, I have a bunch of frames. I've been playing it for so long. So it's just one of those things where I keep it in the rotation. I still got good friends that play it. So I hop in and just like, it's a good hop in, hop out game. Diablo is probably the main thing I put the most hours in. In the last 6 months, I've been playing Spider-Man, which has been really, really fun. Spider-Man 2. And then, and then also too, what's it called? Oh, then I've been playing some PC games like Valheim and some other ones and stuff like that. So I think Valheim's fun. It's a survivor game, right? You're Vikings. Yeah. You start from scratch. You got to get like some wood, some stone, put it together, make an axe, and then start chopping down wood and make a little hut and shit. Like it's fun. So I've been enjoying the act of playing video games in general, and I think that like, from a AAA standpoint, from a indie standpoint, there's just a plethora of games that you can play and be fun with and have fun and enjoy. And I think that's the one good thing. Like 2023 was a really great year for games. I did start Cyberpunk from scratch, and I'm slow rolling it. I play it like maybe a little bit here and there, but I have a lot of fun playing with it. I have no because I've been traveling a lot, I don't get to always sit down and play console games, but it's been fun to play. And like, again, I'm getting it from a fresh experience after all the changes and all that. So now it's getting to a point where I'm like, yo, this game is fucking dope. And a lot of people were like, yeah, it's dope now. It's just because early on, there's a little bit of things that qualms that people had. Not saying it wasn't bad.
Yeah,
there was things that were going on.
For someone that's played this game since its release and went through all the bugs, the game itself, storyline, 70 to 80% of its gameplay, it's not a bad game. It was just mad buggy, and it had some quality of life things that needed some touch up. Because the hype on this game was immense. This hype started like 5-7 years before its release. I remember seeing the original trailer of Cyberpunk, and that's one of the homies put me on. I was like, yo, this game looks crazy. So I think the release issues coupled with the hype of the game and what was promised to us, same with Division, killed some of the momentum. But once you started to play the game and understand the world, it was always a dope game. It never was a bad game. Now in its inception, if you, like people said, if you play this game, you can either wait a year when they fix everything and play it, or you play it and just go through it. And you just, go through the grind. Now, take it from me. I played the Division 1, and that had 11 billion bugs in it. And I've been through the worst of the Division. So I was like, all right, if I've been through the Division, I can deal with it. This is nothing. And I think to the console's credit, the console wasn't as bad as the PC. The PC version was terrible. It was just, you couldn't play it, right? It was just unplayable. Where the console, you could play it. You just had to go through cops coming in. Like if you did something bad, cops would just appear right in front of you. Yeah, that's a bad thing. Or it was hard to drive. That was a bad thing. Or there was just like a mission that just had a bug. These are just little small things, but it didn't take away from the overall experience of Cyberpunk 2077. Now with this update, the latest update and the latest DLC, the game, like the Division, the Diverse Division, it's in a really good place. I will say the thing about the Division 2, I put so many hours in Division 1, it's just like I can't do the Division like I used to. It's kind of like Destiny players. But I will say with Warframe is the type of game that you can play and not play for a few years and come back.
Oh, yeah.
And still play again and not miss a beat if you have a fundamental understanding of the game. Yeah. Whereas the Division, I'm so far behind on missions and guns. Yeah. I have to have somebody backpack.
Yeah, and I would say right now, especially with Division 2, it's patched up a lot of the stuff from the Division 1 and got all this together. And so I think it's at a point now that I think we can get a good point where I think you can see now where it's changed a lot. It's gotten to a good point. And so now it's one of those things now where it's a better gaming experience. And so I think it fixed a lot of the problems and other things like that. And so I think that's where I'm seeing now where I'm like, if you just like my brother my younger brother gave the other brother his PS4. And so he has Division on there and all that. And he has PS5. So he has all those same games. And so my brother's now playing Division 2 straight from scratch from the beginning of the game. And he's just like, yo, this game was crazy. And I was thinking about it. I'm like, yeah, if you just play Division 2 right now, 2024, it's a fucking amazing game. The amount of content that's there, the amount of things you can do, all these different stuff. So I think it's a really fun game, but you're 100% correct. I think that's the one thing that we're seeing because Division 2 now has been out for 6 years. And that's the kind of the craziest part too. So I was when my brother was like, because he gifted the PS4 to my other brother, and he was going through it, and he's like, yo, there's mad games on here. And then when I looked it up, I'm like, yo, Division 2 literally has been out for 6 years. And Division 1 was like 10 years ago. I was like, and what's even funnier is people are playing Division 1 right now because of Underground and Survivor, which are the two DLC or patches that they made. Survivor was more the Survivor situation of it, and Underground was like the subway or whatever. And so but yeah, man, it was dope. It was really, really good. And I think you're right. There's like, we're at a point now where you might play one game. You're like, my old roommate in Oakland, he has an Xbox. He got Cyberpunk when it first came out, returned it. He's just like, I can't play this game. It's too buggy. I'm not into it. And like, here we are 3 years later, he bought it again, played it in December. He binged the whole thing. He's like, yo, this game is dope. Because now all the are fixed.
Yeah, and that's probably going to be the story of Starfield because one of you guys said that I think for Cyberpunk, it was the console that was so buggy and the PC was fine. And on this, in the case of Starfield, I don't know anyone else's experience, but when I did have an Xbox that has since been returned, when I did have an Xbox, that game would crash in like probably every 10 minutes of gameplay, maybe less. I was constantly having to save because literally it would just go to the Xbox home screen. And I would just throw my arms in the air. I'm like, this doesn't even give you a warning, man. Like, at least the PlayStation gives you a warning that it's about to crash. This just cuts off. And it just kept happening. I tried to see if it needed updating. It was connected to the Ethernet cable. And played it through the Xbox Cloud on the Mac. No problems at all. I could play it for hours and it doesn't crash at all. So I say that to say I don't know. I don't know what's better for these games that are made exclusively for Xbox and PC.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to the concept wars, right? It's pretty much you just want to play the game, you don't really care about the console, and then each one has their own experience. And so I think for me, I've been looking heavily into the Steam Deck because I wanted to get a PC laptop, which will cost you an extra, usually $1,200, $1,300, $1,400, or Steam Deck, which is around that $600 thing, and what that means. But for some games, like for Starfield example, Steam Deck plays it okay. It might do it, but not hard. Like there's some definite lags and all that kind of stuff. But for a lot of the other PC games I want to play, it's perfectly fine. So I've been really looking into that. I've been looking into the Oculus 3. Because I've been looking more into you can get the new one is I think $499 or something like that. But there's a lot of good stuff that's going on. The price dropped because of the Apple joint that's coming out, which the Apple joint is dope, but it's not for humans right now.
Which is hilarious.
It's literally for companies like, again, I work at Snapchat. We do AR and VR stuff all the time. And like, it's legit. Like I was talking to some developers and that's exactly what they said. They're like, the new Apple shit is super dope, but it is not for humans.
I cannot confirm or not confirm that. No comment.
Mm-hmm. But to that effect, the Oculus 3, they just came out. They dropped their price. And so I was looking into that pretty heavy because I was like, oh, okay, this is pretty dope. Good price point. Something that I could rock with a lot of AR and VR stuff now and kind of mess with that. And then, and do that. So yeah, man, again, there's a lot of good games that we've all been playing. I really enjoy that we're on that. And I think in the future tense, we'll do some more game reviews later on as we start to like complete some stuff and that kind of thing. We'll definitely circle back on more game stuff, but just to branch out a little bit. But everybody, thank you for listening to us. We ranted about video games, which is always a good thing.
One last thing.
Go ahead, wrap it in.
Kill the Justice League is not as bad as reviews think. Wait till the game comes out, play it. It's not an Arkham Asylum Batman fight beat 'em up game. It's very different. But for someone that thought the game was going to be bad, I played the alpha. It's not as bad as people think. So give it a shot. That's it.
Yeah.
And that's a big endorsement considering DC's last game, Gotham Knights.
Oof.
Oof.
Yeah.
And so
I think that was free on PlayStation. And I was like, do I really want this? And it's free. Like, yikes.
Yeah, my nephew bought it on his Xbox when he still had his Xbox. He's since gotten a PlayStation 5, but when he had it, he returned it because that's one of the good things that Xbox allows you to do, because it was just that bad. It was not a good game. So I'm happy to hear that at least Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is not as bad as people think it's going to be, because I was honestly looking for.
Yeah, it looks cool. I mean, it looks cool.
Of the premise.
Oh, this is the funny thing I would mention about Kill the Justice League. So I had the alpha and my dumb ass turned on the Twitch, and I got instantly banned for like 48 hours. Because I forgot it was alpha. I was just like, let me just.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was playing like the first 3 minutes, and then my stream just immediately cut off, and I got banned for 48 hours. And it was like, you can sign in to take the one strike off. I was like, I don't care. I don't have a Twitch following like that on my phone. So I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to just wait. And then I just sign back in. But I do recall right when I started playing the game, it had like, oh, this is an unreleased version, basically for your eyes only. I was like, whatever. I didn't really care. And then, after a few minutes, I got booted off Twitch because of copyright, whatever, third party infringement, whatever, and so I was banned.
Well, they had that whole indie, yeah.
So, but yeah, if you get an alpha or a game that's not released, don't stream. So.
Yeah, you've signed an NDA, and until they release that NDA, you're liable.
Yeah, they were like, "Oh, we're going to take away your Twitch account if you do it again." I was like, "I don't care."
It's like, yeah, I did not give away the nuclear codes. Come on, man. We're talking about a video game. Everybody's
I get
it. Yeah.
Cam, you're on mute.
Yeah, that's pretty hilarious. But yeah, that makes sense. I mean, we're going to do some more like Happy New Year's to everybody.
Too late.
Right? Too late. But yeah, thanks for rocking with us, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.